With the boom of Atelier Ryza, Atelier has seen a few changes recently. Worlds became bigger, with post-Ryza 3's Atelier Yumiya early this year practically being an open-world game, but just before that we got Atelier Resleriana, Forgotten Alchemy, and the Polar Knight Liberator, which kept that great Atelier story rooted in alchemy and history in a world sprinkled with mana, but also scaled the worlds and alchemy right back down that made people feel like it was a step back before its bigger follow-up. Atelier Resleriana, the Red Alchemist, and the White Guardian somehow ends up being the middle ground that we didn't know we needed. It keeps most of the scale of New Atelier, with large areas to explore, but goes back to devices and skill progression to be able to explore the world, needing you to ultimately work on your alchemy if you want to progress to greater heights, just like its Alchemist protagonist would. It keeps some of the active nature of modern Atelier thanks to its guard mechanics and the gorgeous graphics of original Res, but pivots into a turn-based system, bringing back some of the series' most fun mechanics like Interrupt and Item Mix to have Atelier fans feeling nostalgia, and also the fun of using these in modern Atelier. Complete with it being the perfect setting to run into wanderers from other Atelier series and even travel with a great group of all-stars, it ends up feeling like an Atelier for the fans, taking all the mechanics original fans know and love, bringing in a duo for a dual-protagonist story, but doing it on the console stage to make Atelier Resleriana Red and White one of the best Atelier entries yet, thanks to the way it respects the series while delivering a wondrous new entry. Our two protagonists, the bright Rias and sentimental Slade, hail from the town of Halfin, a town set in the same world of Lantarna that the original Resleriana is set in. Rias returns to her beloved hometown to help with her missing grandpa's shop, while Slade is searching for some ruins while trying to honor his dad's final wishes. Rias' naive adventure to the same ruins to try help out her sister lead the two to meet, fighting together for the first time and discovering a mysterious Atelier, and that they share the same dream of seeing their once disaster-stricken hometown shine again. Together with a group of Atelier favorites, they set out on a journey to revitalize their homeland, uncovering history and warm moments as the two set out on a larger-than-life journey rooted in humble beginnings. Resleriana Red and White had an interesting balance to strike, with recent Atelier Yumiya being a groundbreaking open world for the franchise, and Resleriana Polar Knight only requiring you to tap a screen to run. Apparently, the solution for this is both approaches, keeping the alchemy centered around the gift color concept of original Res that is easy to understand, but otherwise feeling like a mechanical sequel to Sophie 2 and even Ryza 2 in a lot of ways, with a slightly smaller scale but also by no means being small, with different maps rather than fields available to explore, littered with treasure and plenty of materials to find along the way. One of the things I was most surprised by is that its dimensional paths make it an almost dungeon crawler of sorts at times. You can't save in these dungeons, so it might be the most unfriendly thing Red and White has you do, but you're also allowed to tap out every 5 floors, with the further up you go, the more interesting materials you can find, and although in the grand scheme of things, this is only one type of exploration in Red and White, as they pop you out into wide versions of the world from Polar Knight usually, but it was a unique form of exploration that caught my attention early on. The other fields from Polar Knight and Halfin you can explore in a much more typical fashion, divided into small areas due to their scale, but also as individual maps that are separated into smaller regions. They're still jazzed up though. The day and night cycles change the enemies and materials you see, and Rias' swing ability and Slade's ability to break walls, along with vertical scale, adds the right amount of variety to keep things interesting, with the same thing easy to say about his new turn-based system. Atelier went from active back to turn-based in original Resleriana, so it makes sense that Red and White gets the same treatment. Rather than sticking to the limited attack types and classes as Polar Knight though, it just straight up goes back to the last turn-based Atelier, with this turn-based system feeling like a sequel to Sophie 2's, with teamwork being a big part of battles fitting this dual-protagonist Atelier. It also appeals to the side of me that loves trails thanks to its timeline. Each turn there's the potential for different buffs or debuffs to come up that means you can plan accordingly, and with other Atelier classic mechanics like the Interrupt one returning from Lalua, where you can give yourself another turn to shift the timeline, or the item mix one from Lydian Soul, where if you mix the right things, you get a whole extra attack that can be the difference between winning or losing later battles. It makes things fun beyond the smart use of items and elements, with the special sauce being that teamwork between the front and rear guard can often give you an extra attack for free that means there's no reason not to do it, and the more teamwork you do and the more guards you successfully execute between attacks keeping things active, the more it builds your technical points that can lead to extra moves moves and specials in the late game, so with the right amount of flashiness thanks to the pretty style of Resleriana making Rias and Slade look good, and also giving high-res versions of attacks to legacy Atelier characters like Wilbo and Totori, it's a satisfying system to play with that does like Gust's thing where it improves in this latest turn-based iteration once again. One part of Resleriana when you're not battling that was also in desperate need of improvement from Polar Knight was the gathering on its fields, and if you're an Atelier fan who feels excitement from hearing you can upgrade your sickle from rank 1 to rank 3, you're in for a treat. Not only are gathering tools back, but many of the fields of original Resleriana and more are finally explorable and full of materials, meaning that loop of gathering and battling for item materials, synthesizing with them to meet story goals, and doing quests in between is back, with a rewarding sprawl of materials whenever you strike or pick at something that feels just like gathering should. And if you love synthesis but were dissatisfied with the simplicity of Polar Knight, while they bring over the gift color system, I think it works way better here with materials as the focus, as you try and chain the right colors, traits, and effects together for that extra bonus, and items having a level you can eventually raise gives you something to always strive for, with it also not being an easy thing to do instantly, like say when I got my items quickly to level 999 in Ryza 2. And speaking of Ryza 2, Red and White also brings back the recipe morph mechanic that works well with the gift color linking and skill trees, and I loved it just as much again, as there's nothing more satisfying than synthesizing layers upon layers of items at a time to get to the best one, and then enjoying the fruits of your labor, whether it be to use in battle or to put into Rias' shop. Rias' shop is the final special mechanic of Red and White, and links to story progression as you'll be capped on what you can do until you can raise her shop to certain levels. That's because Rias' shop also helps her to make money to invest in Halfin, and in a very Nelke way, you can watch the town grow in features and appearance as you continue to invest, all tying into her learning alchemy recipes that will aid the city, that makes it another good linking point in that Atelier gameplay loop. In practice, it feels really nice. You can be in a synthesis loop, realize you have something that can benefit the shop, go there and put it in, doing your best to keep gift colors linked and your fairies and decorations all good. And if you're missing something, you can always run into its field to uncover what you need while finding wanderers from the series to take quests for along the way, with everything linking together beautifully to make for pure Atelier bliss that never stops feeling so good to get into. If having a ton of mechanics to balance wasn't enough, Resleriana Red and White also decides to balance having two protagonists at its helm while paying homage to Atelier's greatest, but luckily this is one of the parts that was actually more successful on its service game side, so in a fully fleshed out console story feels better than ever. There's plenty of dialogue moments to show new characters Rias and Slade growing and changing in their journey, and while they're not running around through the big ruins of Yumiya or Ryza and discovering history like that, things like a mysterious book deciphered throughout the story through the amusing supporting character Elle and the new townspeople like Rias' sister Camilla and uncle-like figure Haita bring their own twists and turns along the way. It continues on the idea of alchemy being a lost art like in Polar Knight, and its morals will connect easily to those who have played both, though Polar Knight with its end of service in the West luckily isn't essential at all. In the same way it's not essential you know all of the Atelier characters that pop up either. Atelier greats like Sophie and Claudia, who come in at different points, are mainly introduced as amazing people from other worlds with different knowledge to help Rias and Slade with, and while there is so much fan service to get if you happen to know their worlds, especially post-game, the world focuses more on big moments with Rias and Slade and small amusing ones with its sidecasts, bringing back the mentor role with Resna and Valeria too, which is something this entry made me realize the series has been missing more recently. I love the story of Red and White from start to finish, and feel like the way some of the Rias and Slade moments hit will have the fandom spinning in a very Esker and Logi kind of way. And beyond the character dynamics and with how it connects to Polar Knight, it has me hoping for another kind of Resleriana experience on consoles, as this combination of legacy Atelier mechanics and characters mixed with new ones was a fresh take on Atelier that I never knew I needed. Atelier Resleriana, the Red Alchemist and the White Guardian, is perfect for old and new Atelier fans, able to satisfy old fans in the way it polishes up old mechanics and reminds you of old characters and all their lovable traits, and giving new fans the introduction to many of the great characters of its world, but in a more preview sense, unlike the deeper and longer events in Polar Knight. Something I've loved in the postgame after my 50-hour playthrough has been the approachableness of all its endgame events, seeming to be mostly extra little moments, and I've put the most time I put into a game recently beyond the main credits because of it. I always do about an hour of post-game before reviewing something because sometimes there are some pretty big things you can miss, but the endgame has just felt more like rolling events, even tying up other Atelier worlds that I've played. If you've taken the time to indulge in the more recent Atelier DX releases, the extra moments with characters like Sophie and Toturi, and even other side characters like Lodgy feels invaluable, and the fact that a lot of Wanderer quests can be done quite easily after finishing, meaning I keep meeting more Atelier characters. I just met Maru while writing this, and there are still other characters announced on Twitter like Mari that I've been yet to find. There are also things I can do to still improve my equipment and skill trees of all kind too, with trophies for each main character quest having been good encouragement to finish them all. Most of all though, the loop is still fun. I often end up doing little things like finding an item in a treasure chest while unlocking new parts of the map, going back to put it in my shop, then remembering I still have items I can make, and usually more events that aren't too long to refresh onto my map means there's always plenty to do. It feels much more like old Atelier, where it keeps wanting to tell you more about its characters, and frankly, I didn't realize how much I missed just walking out of the Atelier and having a random event drop, so it definitely feels like the Atelier and Gus games around the time of Atelier Sophie. In a way, it feels relaxing to keep playing rather than being overwhelming. Gus have said they might be interested in making a variety of Atelier experiences in the press for this, so if I've based my hopes on that correctly, after how well they've done this one, I would love, whether it's Resleriana or otherwise, if they kept making a part of Atelier to satisfy fans of its legacy, while also still growing to be a modern franchise in games like Yumiya, as they did so well with this console side of another Resleriana that feels just as good as Yumiya, but in a more traditional Atelier way. For now though, I'll be sticking with this particular Resleriana as it has the start and end point I need to not get too stuck in it, but also the never-ending unfold of quests and events that I love too, as I'm grateful for this year where we got two different and brilliant Ateliers. What could have been called a step back in Atelier mechanics ends up feeling like a great leap forward in Atelier Resleriana, the Red Alchemist and the White Guardian, as it gives us the best version of its legacy mechanics and honors the series the best way it can. The new story with Rias and Slade feels as satisfying as it is beautiful to watch, paying homage to different parts of the series while also growing as a part of the bigger Atelier world. Its turn-based system feels active, with the way you can interrupt and guard from enemy attacks in a turn-based way that most JRPG players should be able to enjoy, and the original res mechanics like the gift color system and exploration finally have the depth they need to make them their own worthy parts of Atelier. If you feel dissatisfied with newer Atelier, I definitely recommend giving this one a try, as it's more old Atelier than new, but with that modern sheen to it that make it a modern entry. And if you're someone just looking for a good JRPG with fun exploration and a story of two characters trying to help their part of a greater world while growing their relationship, Atelier Resleriana Red and White is more than ready to show you the funnest parts of the Atelier series as a whole, and as I continue playing and loving how approachable it feels to play, I love how this really surprised me as the standout Atelier from this year. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried Atelier Resleriana, the Red Alchemist and the White Guardian, and if you have, what did you think of it? You can like and share this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more JRPG content like this, and ring that bell to get notifications on whenever I post so you don't miss a thing. You can check out more videos here, and you can find me on social media on X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at JRPG Jungle. Links to those will be in the description below. Thank you to Koei Tecmo for the code, and until next time, thank you, bye!